Hey folks, welcome into the News 12 Now Desk. Thanks for joining us. We are talking about this again. The Olive Road Bridge has been hit yet again. I know it feels like, how does this keep happening? I don't really know, but it does. So we've got Will Rio live out there right now. So Will, you talked with Augusta Traffic. You've been out there all morning. How are things going out there?
Yeah, right now CSX has several crew members who are out here looking at the bridge, evaluating the bridge, and actually putting a new beam up. I'm sure we have drone pictures that are up right now showing you exactly what work is going on. Several members of the crew are up there, and we talked with traffic engineering just to get an understanding of what exactly was going on. Now on that front part, so yesterday we saw the picture of the beam on the ground and on top of the truck. I'm sure everyone's seen that by now. Bridge hit for the millionth time, it feels like. But they put up a colored red beam now. Now, the important part to this is that that beam is actually not connected to the bridge. We found out that CSX, the railroad company that owns the tracks, they actually had a beam placed there so people would hit that steel beam instead of the actual bridge. So if people were to hit the bridge, it can cause the tracks to get unaligned, so they have to send a crew out here, realign those tracks. But I think the biggest question with all of this is what's being done to prevent these kind of crashes from happening again. People have called on the county, called on the city to make changes to this. We talked to John Ushery, who's with Augusta Traffic and Engineering. Now, the biggest part of all of this is that basically the simple answer is to fix this issue, it's going to cost tens of millions of dollars to fix this. Why is that the case? Well, the railroad tracks it's a very important railroad track, first of all, and if they heighten the bridge, raise it up, it's going to cause the tracks to be raised up. And trains, they're obviously on rails, they don't have rubber, so they're going to be slick. They can't go up incline. So that means that they have to go on all of those miles of tracks, they have to raise up those tracks for miles and miles and miles. So that's on the railroad company. So they would be taking the brunt of that financial burden to raise the tracks up. They said, we're not doing it right now. The county and city has talked to them about doing that. So that's not a solution. So the other idea would be to lower the road. The problem with that is that there's a creek right behind the bridge. So you lower the road, it's going to cause massive amounts of flooding. Then you've got another issue on your hands. Another option, possibly closing the bridge altogether for through traffic so no one can go under it, causing a detour. The problem with that is Kissenbauer Road is the next intersection over. They're going to have to redo that entire intersection if they cause a route change over here. So that's another issue of having traffic going to a separate part of town. So essentially, you're just shifting the issue here from Olive Road Bridge to a separate part of town that's going to cost millions of dollars to renovate and to fix. Now, the other issue with closing through traffic under the bridge altogether is that emergency vehicles will not have a route to go there. So when they're on calls, they'll have to go all the way around the bridge to get to those calls. I mean, every minute is so important when someone's having a heart attack or another medical emergency there. So they say that's not really an option. John said he took that to commissioners. They were not for that as well. So what they've done, and I'm sure everyone has seen this, put a blinking stop sign, blinking lights, signs everywhere. They said they have over 20 signals over here and signs telling people not to go under the bridge. It just seems to still keep happening over here. So it's just a perfect storm of issues over here. It's really on the railroad company to determine whether they want to take the brunt of those financial or those costs to raise up the tracks here. So perfect storm of issues. Olive Road Bridge. It doesn't seem like it's going to change anytime soon either.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it really seems like conventional wisdom would say it doesn't really need to change because you've got all the signs and the lights and whatnot, but this does keep happening. And sometimes, you know, somebody may be driving a U-Haul and they're not used to driving a U-Haul and they don't think that they, you know, are going to hit the top and they do, or sometimes you just aren't really paying attention and you hit it. But it's just, it's incredible the number of times that we've seen it. We haven't been here all that long, in hindsight, a couple of years each, and we've seen this, I don't know, got to be a handful of times now.
And to be fair, talking with John, he was like, I want to slow the roll just a little bit because the narrative of it's been hit a lot. Yeah, that's true. A bridge probably shouldn't be hit as much as it has so far. But he's like, we've gotten it down from being hit 3 or 4 times a year to almost once a year. He kind of laughed when he said that because it's like, oh, we almost made it a year before it got hit again. But it's just a big thing of people paying attention. And uh, for Masters Week, he's like, I close the bridge because dealing with that during Masters Week is always a struggle. A lot of people out of town, so it's just a thing of people paying attention. And again, this is not unique to just Augusta. I mean, he said there's bridges all over the state that are having issues just like this. But I will say the beam being put out front is very unique to Augusta. CSX is like, we're sick of coming out here fixing it, and we don't want the bridge to be completely damaged. So it's almost like a bump beam to protect the bridge. And he was like, the solution to that also is to paint it bright yellow or bright red. And right now, the new beam that they put up is a bright red beam, so it's pretty hard to miss. It's got little reflector strips on it as well.
Yeah, we can see it in the drone shot that we're looking at here. You can see that big red beam, and that's smart because that was one of the things I first noticed yesterday. I'm actually going to pull up the picture that Will's talking about. So if you saw this picture, that when you see the beam down, it's like, oh my goodness, like somebody really got it this time. But that's just that was supposed to happen almost. They had just put that up fairly recently.
Correct. Yeah, that beam was to protect the entire rest of the bridge, but John said, yeah, it was really surprising that the beam fell because when you look at the tracks, they have bolts that go into the tracks and it goes through to hold those in place. And he said for that beam to fall would mean that the truck had to rip out those bolts into the ground. So the beam fell onto the truck and onto the ground. But yeah, the beam served its purpose yesterday. The truck hit it and then it fell. It wasn't supposed to fall, but it protected the rest of the bridge. And if you saw our midday newscast, you did see a CSX train actually go over the bridge. So it seems like the tracks are, at least in one direction, back to normal and operational.
Will, thanks for that update there.